Every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio and ESPN News, 250-plus markets across the United States of America. Check your AM, FM listing nearest you, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM Channel 80, plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. Number to call up, as always, is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Credit Karma. Get your truly free credit scores and free credit monitoring from Credit Karma today. That's Credit Karma, K-A-R-M-A. Get knowing. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Got a lot of stuff to get into today. The immediate news for the moment is that of the New York Jets. The New York Jets thought they shored up a few things, particularly at their linebacker spot. You got C.J. Mosley, who decided to leave the Baltimore Ravens and come to the New York Jets. You initially had Anthony Barr from the Minnesota Vikings. That was going to be your edge rusher, and he was going to be somebody that was able to do some things for you. But he asked you to give him the night to sleep on it and what have you. He woke up and decided that he would rather stay in cold-ass Minnesota than right in New York City with the Jets. Now, I don't know how anybody else is supposed to feel about that, but I got to tell you something. If you're a New York Jets fan, that is not good. And let me say something about Minnesota, okay? Minneapolis, Minnesota. Let me be very, very clear, all right? I know that the New York Jets were 4-12 last season. I know that. I know that Sam Darnold is only entering his second year as your quarterback. I know the New York Jets with the 29th ranked defense. I know they were 24th against the pass and 26th against the rush and 25th in yards forfeited. I get all of that. I really, really do. And I look at them right now, having the money that they have available to them, but you're still wondering what they're going to do. Todd Bowles is not their coach any longer. I get all of that. I totally understand it. But I got to tell you something here and now. Let me be very, very clear about where I'm coming from. How can anybody, choosing Minnesota over you? Quality of life matters. And to Minnesotans out there, no disrespect. I'm quite sure the city's a beautiful city when the weather's warm. It's just that it's usually so damn cold. All you see is smog, fog, or whatever the hell, smoke, or whatever the hell it is out there. One of my best friends in the world is a guy by the name of Boris Terrell Battle. He and I went to Winston-Salem State together. He's not my friend. He's my brother. We're that tight. I love him dearly. And his children live out there, and he's been living out there in Minnesota since he departed from school in the 90s. And every time I see him, I say, how could you do this to them? That's how cold it is in Minnesota. That really is how cold. I think wind chill factors and all of that stuff kept it, like minus 50 one day a few weeks ago. Now, I understand they're playing in the dome now, so life is different inside the football stadium. I get it. And if you want to look at it from another technical perspective, take into account the fact that the New York Jets were 4-12 last year, on a course to nowhere, wondering where the hell they were going. The Minnesota Vikings had a down year as well, but their definition of a down year was 8-7-1, following a 13-3 season and a trip to the NFC Championship game. This is a team that obviously with Kirk Cousins couldn't help them but so much. Their defense was ranked 9th, 4th in yards allowed, 3 against the pass. Your Anthony Barr makes perfect sense why you would want to stay in Minnesota with Coach Mike Zimmer. It makes complete and total sense why you would want to stay there. Doesn't look good for the Jets because they were about to demote or get rid of Darren Lee. Now you got to find something to do with him unless you got somebody else to go out there and target. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see what they do moving forward. It's going to be really interesting to see where the Jets go from here. Because I got to tell you something. It doesn't look good when you thought you had a commitment from somebody. When the newspapers are writing that he's coming. Particularly if you're Adam Gase in the first year of your career as a head coach for the New York Jets, although you spent the previous 3 years or so in Miami. As a head coach in Miami, Adam Gase had one winning season, Took him to the playoffs that year, but one winning season. He's 23-25. He's missed the playoffs his last 2 years. He goes to the New York Jets, and somebody commits to you because of the exorbitant dollars you were willing to throw in their direction, and then they turn around and say, I changed my mind. I'm going to go back to Minnesota. That is not good. Slice it any way you want to. That is not good. And if you're the New York Jets, there's some different directions you could go here. I'm telling you right now, in New York City, you need to make a splash. Even though you're playing in East Rutherford, New Jersey at MetLife Stadium, in New York, when you got that New York as a part of your brand, the New York Giants, the New York Jets, you need to make a splash. And if you're the New York Jets, guess what? If you're sharing the damn stadium with the Giants, and the Giants have Saquon Barkley, and before that they had Odell Beckham Jr., could you give us a star? You know the kind of star, Nuno, that doesn't look like Richie Cunningham. Could you give us somebody like that? We know everybody loves Richie Cunningham, a.k.a. Sam Darnold. We got it. I mean, what are you looking for next, the Fonz? Now, those of you who are younger, your young whippersnappers out there, breath smelling like Similac, wet behind the ears, you might not know what I'm talking about. There was a show in the 50s called Happy Days, and you saw them re-aired throughout the 70s and the 80s. And you had red-headed, freckled-faced Richie Cunningham. That was one of the stars of the show. That's who Sam Darnold is. And the Fonz, Henry Winkler, was supposed to be Mr. Cool and a personification of cool because he wore this black leather jacket all the time and rode a motorcycle. And he'd say something like, hey. And that's all he needed to do with the thumbs up sign. And it looked really, really good. With Tom Bosley as a father. I only bring him up because C.J. Mosley is coming. I actually said Bosley on First Take when I met Mosley, but that's beside the point. If you are the New York Jets, excuse me, can we get somebody box office to show up and give a people the reason to come to the MetLife Stadium to watch you other than Jamal Adams on the defensive side of the ball, who's already disgusted with the quality of teammates he has? Could you help the brother out? McCagnon, I got you. You got Mosley. You were supposed to have Ball. Now you got to fix something else. But if you're the New York Jets, can I please get some piece of box office attraction? Pretty please with sugar on top. Please. Could you give me somebody that I want to walk through the turnstiles to see? And if you're wondering who I'm alluding to, ladies and gentlemen, it would happen to be Le'Veon Bell. Now, if I'm Le'Veon Bell, I'm thinking about the Raiders. I'm thinking about the Indianapolis Colts with Andrew Luck having resurrected his career. I'm thinking about the Philadelphia Eagles, who agreed basically to bring Deshaun Jackson on board. Somehow, some way, Tampa just wanted to ignore what he did with Ryan Fitzpatrick, instead focus on what he did with Jameis Winston, who, by the way, I saw in California a few days ago. And Jameis Winston, his weight is down. He looks in shape. He's looking pretty good. I got to tell y'all that. Jameis Winston actually is looking pretty good. He looks like he's in shape right now. He doesn't look pudgy like he normally does. Jameis Winston looks in shape. He wasn't getting in any trouble. He wasn't bothering anybody. He had one of his big boys with him, no doubt there to protect and insulate him, as he should. He had a lovely lady who I think was his publicist or somebody who was with him. He looked really good. Looked in shape. Looked like he was ready to play today. But that's not what occurred when he was with Deshaun Jackson earlier this year, when Deshaun Jackson was loving playing with Ryan Fitzpatrick, throwing him the football, and literally wanted the hell out of Tampa. No disrespect, no personal hardship feelings towards Jameis Winston. He just had a better vibe as a receiver to quarterback with Ryan Fitzpatrick than he ever did with Jameis Winston. Tampa Bay under Bruce Arians took that into consideration. They made the decision that Jameis Winston is their quarterback. You Deshaun Jackson, if you're going to sit up here in a football league, recognizing the fact that your days, you're not getting any younger now, and you definitely want to show them that you can still ball, but you can't throw the ball to yourself. Deshaun Jackson wanted Tampa Bay, according to what I was told, to guarantee him his $10 million. They weren't willing because he only had a partial guarantee. They were only willing to go as high as $6 million. That's what they said, $6 million. That wasn't going to be enough for Deshaun Jackson. He wanted out. So what did Bruce Arians do? They found a landing spot for him, his old team in Philadelphia, which, truthfully speaking, he never really wanted to leave. And so now he's going to be back in Philly at $13 million. And if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, excuse me, with Alshon Jeffrey, with Nelson Aguilar, with Zach Ertz and the crew, and now you add Deshaun Jackson to that, particularly since Nick Foles just signed for $88 million over the next 4 years with the Jacksonville Jaguars, with, oh, by the way, $50 million in guaranteed dollars. If you're the Philadelphia Eagles, I got news for you. Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. Carson Wentz, no excuses. Not that he's ever used any. His issue has been durability because of his injuries, not his game. Because Carson Wentz can ball when healthy. Completed 69% of his passes last year. Threw for over 3,000 yards, although he had a 5-6 record as your starter. But when I'm looking at the Philadelphia Eagles right now, and I'm seeing what I'm seeing, Goddard, and Zach Ertz, this kid, Dallas Goddard, can ball. Had only 334 receiving yards on 33 receptions. But he can ball, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a miss. I'm telling you right now, he can ball. And Zach Ertz, don't get me started with him. 116 receptions, 1,163 yards, targeted 156 times. 74% of the time, Nick Foles or Carson Wentz was looking for him. They found him. You got him. You got Aguilar. You got Alshon Jeffrey. Excuse me. I need to make sure that. Is Alshon Jeffrey still there? I believe he's still there, right, Nuno? I think he is. But Nelson Aguilar, with Ertz, with Goddard, assuming Alshon Jeffrey is still there, with Deshaun Jackson, I'm telling you right now, the Eagles could potentially be an elite offense. I'm telling you that right now. I'm telling you that right now. But looking at just the free agent landscape and what have you, let me get to Nick Foles, and let me say this. Nick Foles is worth the $50 million. You're a Super Bowl champion, the Super Bowl MVP, and then you come back up the following year and you guide this team to the playoffs. Whatever you did when it really, really mattered most, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and assume that you could do that with 16 games in your regular season schedule available. I'm going to assume you could do that. He's obviously a fixture in that locker room. John what is it? I was getting ready to say Victor Oladipo, like DiFilippo. John DiFilippo, he's your offensive coordinator in Jacksonville. I think the legitimate question to ask about him when it comes to Nick Foles is, you were the quarterback coach in Philadelphia for 2 seasons, particularly the year y'all won the Super Bowl. That's fine. But when you were an offensive coordinator before that in Cleveland, it wasn't impressive. When you were an offensive coordinator in Minnesota last year, you got unceremoniously dismissed by Mike Zimmer because you didn't want to run the ball more. You didn't do a good enough job of protecting Kirk Cousins. Your offense wasn't intriguing and suspenseful enough, or dare I say it was too predictable and transparent, so they had to get rid of you. So why should I believe that you're going to do the job with Nick Foles when you couldn't do it in Minnesota and you couldn't do it in Cleveland? More so Minnesota than Cleveland. Why would I believe that? Because y'all have a relationship? I'm not sold on that. But again, that's just one of the reasons I'm not excited about Nick Foles going to Jacksonville. Number 2, I think Nick Foles would have been better off with the Redskins. Between Alex Smith, injury. Colt McCoy, injury. Josh Johnson, young. Mark Sanchez, Mr. Butt Fumble himself. Look, man, The Redskins need a quarterback. Alex Smith, I don't think he's coming back from that injury soon. I don't think he'll be back next season. They said the surgery had won a ride to such a degree that there was a legitimate question as to whether Alex Smith's career would be over. I think when you got that kind of trepidation, the likelihood he's going to be out for the next year, if not a couple of years. I don't blame Nick Foles for going to Jacksonville, considering the money that that it cost them and the security that they were willing to provide to him by investing in him the way that they did. I'm just talking strictly in terms of teams. The Washington Redskins in the NFC East, familiar confines, familiar opponent. Rather than Nick Foles going to the NFC South, where the Colts await with Andrew Luck resurrected, where the Texans await because Deshaun Watson is a baller and a winner, or the Tennessee Titans for that matter. I don't think it's that easy to just ignore everything that we're seeing. I personally don't. I'm just of the mindset when you look at it, I can't knock them at all for investing in Nick Foles. I just have my questions. I really do. I have legitimate, significant questions as to whether or not he's going to particularly work in Jacksonville. That's me. That's how I feel about it. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. A couple of other free agent items. Latavius Murray, formerly of the Raiders, formerly of the Vikings. Now it sounds with the New Orleans Saints for 4 years. I guess that means the end of Mark Ingram. Because we know Alvin Kamara ain't going anywhere. And you sign Latavius Murray to a 4-year deal, I'm kind of surprised by that. So I guess that means the end for Mark Ingram. Michael Bennett going to New England. Announcing to them that, you know what, he won't be coming out for the national anthem. He'll just stay inside and he won't be on the field. Let me tell you something right now. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal, ladies and gentlemen, because nobody really cares about the kneeling for the national anthem as long as their eye is aimed at Colin Kaepernick. He's the one. And I told y'all before about instigating the process and what have you. Let's see if he gets a job. That's what this is. This ain't about much else. Eric Davis took a knee. Nobody cared. Other people took a knee. Nobody really cared. It was Kaepernick that spearheaded that whole thing. And they're going to do everything they can to make an example out of him. I hope I'm wrong, but they will. As it pertains to Michael Bennett, it's simple and plain. Everybody's act like it's kneeling for the national anthem. That was the problem with Colin Kaepernick. It wasn't that he kneeled for the national anthem. It was his reasons why. Because he told you racial inequality, social justice, et cetera, We recognize how big of an issue that was. If it were not a big issue, ladies and gentlemen, or if it were a big issue of him just not standing for the national anthem, why didn't anybody make any noise about Marshawn Lynch? And I'm not going at Marshawn Lynch in any way. I'm only making a point in fact in terms of him sitting for the national anthem and Colin Kaepernick kneeling for the national anthem. The fact is we have seen Marshawn Lynch sitting on a cooler eating a banana while the national anthem was being played. That is a fact. How come y'all didn't say anything about that? Because here's the answer. Marshawn Lynch didn't articulate his opposition to the national anthem in such lucid and cogent terms. And because of that, nobody bothered him. But people want to bother Colin Kaepernick. What is there to say? 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Not directly comparing the two. I'm just talking about the ire accorded to the two. One experiences all of it. The other experiences virtually none of it. Last item of business before we go to break here. Russell Westbrook last night, star for the Oklahoma City Thunder of the NBA, in the midst of a contract paying him $217 million, went off on this fan. And when we come back from commercial, I have the sound for you, but essentially I'm going to tell you this. The fan spoke on the record and on tape. Russell Westbrook spoke on the record and on tape. I completely believe Russell Westbrook. I think the fan, what is his name here? Because I got to double check here just to make sure I'm on point. Shane Keisel in Utah. I think he's lying through his stinking teeth. And if he's out there listening, so be it. The fact that he's going to get on camera and say, well, you know what? I just told Russell Westbrook he needs to sit down and ice his knees. Stop. We've seen his Twitter handle. We've seen him delete most of the stuff he's tweeted, even though everything wasn't able to be deleted. We've got some of the things that he said. It comes across, and some of the things he said in the past come across as racist. Some comes across as xenophobic, along with various other things. And at least in one post back in the day, last year during the playoffs, he talked about how Russell Westbrook needed his ass kicked. Called him a punk and some other things. So all of a sudden, you just telling him to sit down and ice your knee. No, nobody's believing that. And Russell Westbrook's ire and disgust based on what he articulated to the media afterwards is entirely justifiable. And I completely support Russell Westbrook in that regard, but it is important to point this out. First of all, Russell Westbrook explained himself, and appropriately so, because he had said, I'll F you up and your wife, you and your wife. He crossed the line there. That was wrong. But he also made it a point to say he's never put his hands on a woman and never would. But it was wrong for him to say that about the man's wife. Number one. Number two, could y'all have imagined if Russell Westbrook went into the stands after that man? No matter what way we want to slice it, no matter what the justification, he would have been perceived as being Ron Artest Part 2. And the NBA would have had to take a very strong and stiff stance against him. So thank goodness it didn't come to that. It really, really didn't. But there's no question that Russell Westbrook has to be careful. No matter how right he is, you can't lose it like that. To the point where you're ready to go in the stands. Can't do it. A hefty, hefty price would have been paid had he done that, because Adam Silver and the NBA would have had no choice. No matter what anybody says. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. That was Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. By the way, if you haven't tried the delicious, high-quality meat from ButcherBox, you're going to be blown away. ButcherBox brings you the meat the way it's meant to be so you can get all of the benefits you're supposed to get. Unbelievable flavor and unparalleled nutrition. They work closely with the best farms and companies committed to raising animals humanely. From grass-fed beef to free-range organic chicken and wild-caught sockeye salmon from Bristol Bay, Alaska, ButcherBox has over 20 different cuts of meat. Ladies and gentlemen, did you hear that exchange? First of all, James Dolan was wrong in a multitude of ways. The man said sell the team. James Dolan said that's not an opinion. If that isn't an opinion, what is? The man thinks you should sell a team? How is that not an opinion? Listen, James Dolan is obviously a brilliant businessman, knows how to make money, okay? So we can't take that away from him. I'm assuming you're that way because you got an education, okay? How is that not an opinion? How? When did that happen? How is that not an opinion? The man thinks you should sell the team. Okay, here's what's factual. That the New York Knicks have been anything but impressive under your stewardship since you took over in 2000. 5 playoff appearances. We're approaching the 6th consecutive year you've missed the playoffs. 1 Atlantic Division crown to show for all your efforts spanning nearly 20 damn years. Why would I be so annoyed with this, ladies and gentlemen? Why would this rake my nerves? Why would I feel the need as a native, even though I'm a native New Yorker and a diehard lifelong Knicks fan, why would I feel the need to be so agitated, so perturbed, so annoyed beyond comprehension over something this small, almost as small as Dolan? And by small, I mean petty, thin-skinned, weak, and the antithesis of the street fighter he called himself. Why would I feel the need to be so upset? It's very, very simple. Open your damn eyes. If you're going to be in the news for petty stuff like this, why would a free agent want to come here? Think about it.
The Stephen A.
Offering accounts with no fees or minimums that can be opened in 5 minutes. Capital One. Hey, what's in your wallet? 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Before I get even or delve further into the whole Russell Westbrook situation in Utah last night with the fan Shane Keisel, we're going to play the sound. First from Russell Westbrook, then from the fan in question, who provoked the ire of Russell Westbrook. Let's listen to all of that. Let's listen to what Russell Westbrook had to say. Play that, Cat. That was Russell Westbrook talking to that fan there. You heard what he had to say. Said, I'll F you up. You and your wife, which obviously we don't condone. And in fairness to Russell Westbrook, he immediately proclaimed after the game, he has never, nor would he ever, put his hands on a woman. He did say that. So he was just sounding off. But that guy is an entirely different matter altogether. If you look at his Twitter handle, Keisel, SKEISEL 391. Well, first of all, he deleted most of the tweets that he's had, and then folks found some of the things that he said and some of the things that he's talked about. Russell Westbrook needing to get his behind kicked or whatever. You got to remember with NBA schedules, everybody knows when you're coming to town. They know who's coming to town, and they know when they are coming to town. And so I don't know if there's any direct history with this particular fan, but there clearly is history with Russell Westbrook and the fans in Utah. This is Shane Keisel and what he had to say in response to Russell Westbrook. Listen to this.
Me and him were just, we were kind of having fun, to be honest.
At least you thought you were having fun?
Yeah, he was smiling at one point, and there was a lot of people, because it was when, Joe would come by and poked Paul George in the eye, and then Joe goes over and apologizes immediately. Russ is just F-bombing and carrying on, acting a fool down here, and everybody's getting on him. And he had, I guess, heat. I thought it was ice. I just told him, I'm like, just sit down and ice your knees, bro. And he turned to me and he's like, that's heat. And I'm like, well, you're going to need it. And then it turned into not safe for work.
Shane Keisel's lying. He's lying through his teeth. First of all, Russell Westbrook smiling at fans. Ladies and gentlemen, Russell Westbrook barely smiles at anybody. So that's a lie. Secondly, Russell Westbrook, all you said to him, sit down and ice your knee, bro. Really? Really? Nobody's buying that. Nobody's buying that. If you got to err on the side of caution in terms of who to believe, it's easy to side with Russell Westbrook in this particular equation. It goes a few steps further. The fan base in Utah, Salt Lake City. Let's be very clear. There's history here. There's history of some issues, some problems that you've had in terms of the rabid fan base available to you all and how you react. We've also, and listen, it's the only game in town. You ain't got no football team. You ain't got no basketball team. You don't have that. You do not have that. Okay? And you got fans that come out there, and even though they're stringent with their rules about excessive alcohol use, and security in Utah, from what I'm told, does an excellent job of really piping down on that stuff and making sure they're relatively restrictive in the amount of alcohol people are consuming at these games. Nevertheless, sometimes alcohol is involved. But the rabid fan base that exists in Utah, Dennis Rodman, Allen Iverson, Russell Westbrook on numerous occasions, along with various other athletes, it can get ugly there. So this dude, Shane Cosell, stop lying. Just stop lying. You know, good and damn well, that ain't what you said, Aisha Nee. You said something else. Russell Westbrook and Patrick Patterson, his teammate that was sitting right next to him, confirmed that what Russell Westbrook said was the absolute truth. Something along the lines, what was it, Nuno? Get on your knees like you've done in the past. Russell Westbrook absorbed that as racial overtones or undertones. He had a problem with it. And that wasn't the only thing that was said to him. And what he said, I've been in the league 11 years. I ain't get in trouble. I don't bother anybody. It's true. Russell Westbrook is ferocious and violent as he is on the court in the heat of competition. What trouble has he ever been in? Who has he ever been accused of bothering? When has he ever gotten in trouble with the law or anything like that? When? So again, I'm going to roll with Russell Westbrook on this. That much I can tell you. But I will say this. Under no circumstances, Russell Westbrook, if you want to play basketball, under no circumstances can you attack a fan. They're showing footage now. They just showed it on ESPN News. Russell Westbrook is courtside, and a fan stands up and stick up both middle fingers. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go here. It's usually the white fans, the few ignorant ones that they are, because most fans are decent at their core. But you don't see brothers usually having those kind of problems with black fans. And if you white out there, maybe you can answer it. Because why the excessive vitriol? Why talking about somebody's family? Why talking about somebody's race? Why talking somebody's culture? Why talking about somebody as a human being? Why go there? Why would that old middle-aged white guy that you just saw on camera be standing up? You're a grown man. Why are you standing up, sticking up your middle finger at Russell Westbrook like that, to the point where his teammates walked over and they were staring at the guy? Why would you do that? And Russell Westbrook was absolutely right with what he said in a press conference last year. They wouldn't walk up to him on the street doing that. They walk up to you in an arena because they know they're protected. So at some point in time, what should, if anything at all, do you think the NBA should do about it? These are legitimate questions. Having said all that, I'm going to say it one last time. Russell Westbrook, under no circumstances can he ever go into the stands. No player should go into the stands. You'd be Ron Artest all over again. The NBA and any sports league is quick to tell you there is never, ever, ever an excuse to go into the stands. I was at the football game with Seattle and Philadelphia a couple of years ago when cats had to be restrained from going into the stands after fans and security yanked him down. I forgot which player it was. I think it was Sheldon Richardson, but I'm not sure. Can't do that. You'll never win that fight. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Back with your phone calls in a minute. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, the college basketball season is winding down, and that means we must turn our attention to the Wendy's Wooden Watch. The John R. Wooden Men's Player of the Year Award presented by Wendy's is the most prestigious individual honor in college basketball, awarded to the country's most outstanding player who is also making progress towards earning a degree. Go to ESPN.com and search Wooden Watch for the list of players on a Wooden Award 2018-2019 men's national ballot. Tune in tonight as Rua Hakimura and the #1 Gonzaga take on St. Mary's for the WCC title at 9 p.m. on Eastern. If I mispronounce that name, I apologize, and I'll pronounce it correctly when I come back from commercial. I don't know how to pronounce that man's name. But anyway, I told you what it was. Brought to you by Wendy's, proud sponsor of the 2019 John R. Wooden
Coast. The Stephen A. Smith Show starts right.
ESPN News coming at you as I love to do every weekday. The number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Hour number 2 is here with you. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Indeed, used by over 3 million businesses for hiring. Post a job today at Indeed.com/hire. Plus, need seats to a game? Download the Vivid Seats app and enter promo code CHAMPS at checkout to get 10% off your first order. Don't buy just any seat. Get a Vivid seat. Again, 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Today at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN 98.7 FM in New York City, Michael Kay, for those of you who are Knicks fans everywhere, will have the man, the boss for the Knicks, for Madison Square Garden, etc., the one and only James Dolan in studio. And boy, does he have some explaining to do. And you know, for me, I just want to state for the obvious. I'm only bringing it up because I brought it up yesterday. The biggest problem, James Dolan, as much as others may despise him, I'm looking at a guy that cuts the check. I'm looking at a guy that spares no expense to try to put a win on the basketball court. He hasn't been successful in 20 years, but he tries. The Larry Brown hire, the Isaiah Thomas hire at the time, the Mike D'Antoni hire with the Donnie Walsh hire, and ultimately the Phil Jackson hire. It's not like the man hasn't tried. So I'm not one that excoriates James Dolan just because he's the owner of the New York Knicks as it pertains to his decision-making as to who he hires. Because truth be told, Larry Brown and Phil Jackson were supposed to be winning situations. There's no way on earth things were supposed to regress to that point, no doubt. But the important point to point out is that James Dolan acts like a child. Charles Oakley spewing whatever he spewed at you, you're going to have security remove him. The other day, a fan says, sell a team. You're going to literally tell him it's not an opinion. That's rude. It is an opinion. It might be a rude one, but it's an opinion. And the fact that this billionaire, who's very accomplished in the business community, has such thin skin in regards to a product he has no business having thin skin about, is why you all should make sure you listen to Michael Kay today at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Right there on 98.7 FM in New York City. It's unbelievable that this man would find the time to care so much about what people say, particularly when it's justification sifting through their words. It's not like you want anything. It's not like they don't have a right to be frustrated. It's ridiculous. That's point number one. Point number two about Connor McGregor, got in trouble again. Ladies and gentlemen, it's no big deal. He snatched somebody's cell phone from them and threw it to the ground to crash it because he didn't want them taking pictures of him coming out of a nightclub at 5 o'clock. He can't do that. The guy was right to call the police because why should he have to pay for his phone? Because Conor McGregor crushed his phone. You wish that people would have the decency not to take pictures of you if you didn't want pictures taken of you rather. But that's not the real world. When you're in the public eye, for some reason, people in our nation and throughout the world are absolutely unequivocally fascinated by that stuff. They give you no privacy. I experience it every day. And I'm just a damn reporter and a pundit who was a columnist. That's all I am. I'm no actor, my career on General Hospital notwithstanding. I'm no movie star. I damn sure ain't no elite professional athlete. But somehow, some way, these people can't get enough of taking pictures and all of this other nonsense. Losing their damn minds. Grown men and women in the streets yelling my name. Bus drivers stopping traffic, literally pulling the bus up to park in the middle of the road just to scream something at me. Yes, it's happened just last week in L.A. So unbelievable. But it comes with it. And Conor McGregor's got to be big enough to handle it. Having said all of that, I'll say this about Conor McGregor. Okay? When I think about Conor McGregor, what I will tell you is this. I'm tired of seeing this man in the news for something other than winning in the damn octagon. I'm tired of it. I am sick of seeing Conor McGregor in the news for something other than winning. Ladies and gentlemen, the last time we saw Conor McGregor fight, okay, and win, I believe, if I remember correctly, was when he fought Eddie Alvarez and destroyed him with a 4-punch finish. I mean, just destroyed him at Madison Square Garden. The first UFC event at Madison Square Garden. Conor handled his business. It was something special to behold. No question about that. Ever since then, the loss to Floyd Money Mayweather, the loss to Khabib Nurmagomedov. Enough's enough. The dolly thrown at the bus and all of this other stuff. Come on, man. Win. Get back in the ring and win or sell your wine. Period. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live, Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Before I get back to the phones, I wanted to delve into another subject because I ruffled some feathers with something that I said on First Take on this radio show as well. And Barstool Sports picked it up. A guy by the name of Coley Mick, M-I-C-K. First of all, let me, believe it or not, let me applaud Coley Mick. I appreciate this article. Not just for his candor about me, although I don't agree with it in terms of his interpretation. It wasn't really about me, his interpretation of what I said. But I deeply appreciate him quoting me. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm reading the quotes here that led off his article, and he quoted me verbatim. Verbatim. Every word in here, I said it. So I'll read it to you right from his article. He said, this is me talking. They're quoting me. And then there's the element of Boston, Massachusetts. They don't just want a star. Of course, they'll take any star that they can get because their priority is winning. But everybody and their mother knows that particularly when it comes to Boston, if we can have a white superstar, that would be even better. And they view Gordon Hayward as having that kind of potential. So, all of those things considered, the players recognized this, were aware of this. And ultimately, those who were compromised by having to be on the court with Gordon Hayward were sensitive to it. Not because they don't like him, not because he's not a good guy, because he is a good guy. It's just that they know he hasn't fully recovered 100% from his injury. So he's not the same as he used to be. They know he's going to be a step slower. They know he's going to be compromised. I have spoken to people in the league who literally have said, look, man, no disrespect to Gordon Hayward, nice guy, but he's really, really compromised right now. He's not the same guy that he was. And they said, quote, we actually kind of feel sorry for him because he is a nice guy and we know he's trying to come back from injury. Ladies and gentlemen, Coley Mick quoted me 100% accurate. That's right, I said it. I said every damn word that he just quoted me as saying. Absolutely true. Okay? Then he goes on and sit up there and said, I amuse him. You know, he loves me. He does some of the things that I say. I don't agree with the part about me being horny all hours of the day. It's a few hours in the day, yes, but not all hours of the day. I digress. The point is, he said all of that is objectively funny stuff, but that does not mean he is immune from having a putrid take. So he considers my take putrid. All right? And then through the line, this is akin to saying Dwayne Haskins is a running quarterback. Touche, because I was foolish enough to say that because I watched one game against Purdue where he ran the ball 15 times, and I watched him against Ohio State where he was playing in that spread. I'm sorry, against Michigan where he was playing that spread offense and being evasive before throwing the football. But that's fair. I don't have a problem with that. Nobody's perfect, neither am I. Let me state so everybody there understands where I'm coming from with the Gordon Hayward thing. Gordon Hayward had a nasty, nasty injury against Cleveland in Game 1 of last season. 5 minutes on the court for the Boston Celtics after signing a $130 million deal. This dude is hurt. Ankle area leg just shattered to the point where guys got off the bench and ran towards the tunnel because they couldn't even look at the injury. LeBron James looked near tears. Dwayne Wade instantly got on his knees and prayed. That's how bad the injury was. So what happens is that there was speculation as to whether or not he would be ready to play before at least the middle of this season. Lo and behold, the next season arrives. He's ready to go Game 1. Danny Ainge, Brad Stevens, and those boys insert him into the starting lineup from day one. Never mind what Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and those boys looked like through the playoffs last year, coming within one game of the NBA Finals when they lost the Game 7 to LeBron and the Cleveland Cavaliers in Boston. Never mind that them brothers showed up. Terry Rozier and Marcus Smart and those boys coming off the bench looking the way that they look. Never mind all of that. Never mind the chemistry and cohesiveness that they had developed. This was a new season. And even though Gordon Hayward could run up and down the court, could cut, could make moves, he wasn't himself. And they put him in the starting lineup anyway. And based on the people that I spoke to, the players were in a quandary. Because on one hand, they genuinely like the guy. He's a good guy. And oh, by the way, when healthy, like he will be next year, he can ball. But because he wasn't 100% healthy, to immediately insert him into the starting lineup took a few guys aback. Number one, because you had guys like Kyrie Irving, who's going to be a free agent, like a Terry Rozier, who's going to be a free agent. Especially in the case of a Terry Rozier. You're looking at somebody and you're saying, excuse me, we're slower when we're on the court with this guy. We're not as potent when we're on the court with this guy. How beneficial is this for us? How beneficial could this be for me? I didn't speak to Terry Rozier about this personally. I'm telling you the kind of conversations that I've had with people who know him, people connected around the league, et cetera, et cetera. So you have that speculation, number one. And then the big speculation, which is probably what rubbed Coley Mick the wrong way, and I respect that. I respect that. I want to be, listen, I'm going to dissect this thing a little bit, but let me preface my comments by saying, Coley Mick, wherever you are, I took no offense to what you wrote. And I'm not coming at you in any kind of negative way. If I was, you'd know. I'm not doing that. That's unnecessary. It's totally fair what he wrote. This is his perspective, and I respect it. I just respectfully disagree. Because I'm getting to a bigger point here that people misconstrue. And maybe it's because my unwillingness to hesitate when it comes to pointing out discrepancies, unfairness, bigotry, racism, and beyond. Maybe that's the reason people assume certain positions that I take, and my response would be, you clearly don't know me very well. Yes, I did go on to talk about the city of Boston, alluding to how it would prefer a white superstar. I didn't say you don't want a black superstar. I didn't say you wouldn't accept and absorb a black superstar. When you won the championship in 2008, I saw how rabid, how great that Boston fan base was. Doc Rivers was a black coach. Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Rondo, Ray Allen, all brothers from another mother, from the same culture. But let's be clear about something here. They ain't Bird. Never will be. They ain't Havlicek. Never will be. You want stories about what it's like to be in Boston? Why don't you talk to Bill Russell? We know this story. We also know, in fairness to the city of Boston, because I know a lot of folks in there, even the a-hole that I had to deal with on WEEI, that's just one person. There's a lot of people on that station that's good people. There's a lot of people that oppose at other stations that are good people. Michael Holley is my brother. That's my man. Black dude living in Boston raves about the city. Boston has evolved. Boston has come a long way. And I get all of that. I'm not excoriating Boston. I love the city of Boston in terms of this. I hate them beating my Yankees. I hate the Patriots smoking everybody all the time. But the fan base in Boston is phenomenal. I love coming to Boston. And those fans are phenomenal to me. They treat me marvelous. I love the atmosphere at TD Bank Garden. I hope you make the finals like I predicted you would. It'll be bananas up in that town. No question. But Boston's a little bit different than most towns. You do have some history. And even though it's not filled with the venom and vitriol that once existed in that town, is there a preference that I believe potentially exists? Absolutely, I do. I'm not apologizing for that. Not at all. Here's where somebody like Coley Mick misses where I'm coming from. When I talk about Boston or various other cities, you might prefer a white superstar. You're assuming I'm saying that's a bad thing. Ladies and gentlemen, I got news for you. Are you ready for this news flash? Are you ready for this new note? If I were the owner of a basketball team in the NBA, I would want a white superstar. Are you ready for that? Did you hear that? I would want a white superstar. They're more marketable. They're more marketable. Could you imagine? 66% of the American population is white. Do you know what I could do with a white superstar in basketball? You think I'm going to apologize for that? That's where Coley Mick completely misconstrued what I'm saying. I'm not denigrating Boston for this. You Danny Ainge, you're the Celtics ownership. You're not shunning anybody. You're not being prejudiced against anybody. You're not denying a star the opportunity to be a star because he's in Boston. You're not saying that they're not going to be marketable or sellable. You're not doing that. But if you had a white superstar in Boston, they're going to be more marketable than a black superstar. That's right, I said it. Yeah, I said it. And I don't have a problem with it. If I were an owner of a basketball team in the NBA and I had an opportunity to have a white superstar, I would be in heaven. Because America, 66% of the population is white. And I know that I'm going to be able to market and sell and profit off of that individual more than others. And Gordon Hayward, before his injury, had the potential to be that guy. He could ball that good. And I think he'll be back, by the way. I don't think the 30-point performance against Golden State the other night was an accident. It's just a matter of health. Where it becomes a bit dicey as it pertains to my position on this entire matter is because you put him in the starting lineup immediately and you knew he wasn't ready. You knew he wasn't ready. And where the discomfort comes in as it pertains to the conversation, how many people would you have done that for? In Brad Stevens' case, I pointed out how this man played for Brad Stevens at Butler. You trying to tell me it's beyond the pale that there's a personal, elevated level of affection that he had for Gordon Hayward that where others may pale in comparison? I don't think that's beyond the pale. And as it pertains to Danny Ainge, the brilliant executive that he is, paying attention to the optics, paying attention to your constituents, understand what they would potentially gravitate to even more so. I'm not saying that they would gravitate to him at the expense of winning, but if you could win while having someone that, dare I say, you better identify with, you're trying to tell me that's good, that's a bad thing? That's not only a good thing, it's good business. It's good business. We all know it. Let me ask you this question, ladies and gentlemen. If LeBron James, are you ready for this, Nuno? What if LeBron James were white? Could you imagine how huge he would be? It's as unfathomable as it is to imagine LeBron James actually being bigger than the already global iconic brand that he is. Could you imagine if LeBron James with that skill set were white? And ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you right now, wouldn't bother me one bit. You think that when they go and get these European players, Luka Doncic can ball, you don't think his pigmentation helps make him more marketable? You're damn right it does. I know it makes you uncomfortable, but it's the truth. The NBA, like almost any league, so salivates over a white superstar. They don't give a damn whether they're from America, England, or the Ukraine. Because it sells. It's business. That's not ostracizing anybody. That's not keeping anybody out. That's not being prejudiced or bigoted or anything in any way. It's paying attention to where the dollars flow. It's just reality. Ladies and gentlemen, Nuno, can I ask you a question before we go to break? Larry Bird destroyed a few basketball souls, didn't he? Game-winning shots, the marksmanship. He's probably one of the greatest shooters. He's unquestionably one of the greatest shooters that ever played the game of basketball. Larry Bird was phenomenal. 3-time league MVP, 3-time champion. This dude was unreal. Ladies and gentlemen, did Larry Bird ever experience what Russell Westbrook experienced? Did Larry Bird have ethnic slurs sprayed on the gate, on the gate of his home like LeBron James did? Did Larry Bird ever have any kind of problems like that? Coley Mick. Great article. It doesn't mean that just because I disagree with some of your points doesn't mean it wasn't a great article and great work on your part. But he took it as a negative. It wasn't a negative. I'm just giving you reality. Gordon Hayward's relationship with Brad Stevens. And for whatever reason you want to pick apart him being inserted into that starting lineup, disjointed the Celtics a little bit, if not a lot. You could pick apart the reasons why, and I'm sure there are several, if not many. I picked apart one of them. I said it. I meant it. I have no problem with anybody having a problem with my position. Just quote and interpret me accurately. That's all I ask. And I'm good with it. I know that makes people uncomfortable, but I'm going to say it one last time. If I was owning an NBA team and I could have a white superstar, I'd be in heaven. Because I know they're going to sell. That's the real world. I'm here in it. When y'all going to join? 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. I'll get back to your calls in a minute. By the way, when you're hiring, you don't want to waste time sorting through dozens of irrelevant resumes, do you? You want an efficient way to get to a short list of qualified candidates. That's why you need Indeed.com. No, this is the kind of nonsense I have to deal with. So every now and then I get a Google alert, right? And I guess the stories with my name attached to it. Look at these headlines. This morning, I'm talking about the Redskins and they need a quarterback. I bring up Alex Smith. I bring up Josh Johnson. I bring up Mark Sanchez. I bring up Colt McCoy. And I mention Tress Way because he threw one pass for 7 yards as a punter. But I'm just talking about guys that threw a pass. Oh, Stephen A. thinks Redskins punter started last year as a quarterback. I'm just going down a list of guys that were on the list that threw passes. It's amazing how people try to misconstrue everything that I say. I guess I truly am a superstar. Listen, I can't even be mad at this stuff. Evidently, whether it's the Washington Times, it's the Spun, it's WEEI and its blog, Stephen A. Smith lazily suggests Celtics players think Gordon Hayward receives preferential. I ain't lazy about nothing. I am lazy. I get the word lazy associated with me. Lazy, that's what I get. Let me tell you something. Nobody backing up from what I'm saying. I'll put it to you a better way. What brothers do y'all know would be treated the same? You see, if we really want to get raw about it, we can. When you talk about the issues that black athletes have in today's day and age, all you got to do to eradicate the problems is to make sure that the treatment is equal no matter which way you turn. If you slow and can't play, if you shooting 31% from the field, averaging 5 points, making $130 million, excuse me, you gonna average 29 minutes? Huh? This is that kind of nonsense. That's why I cut back on my damn interviews, Nuno. I get paid to debate. I ain't debating y'all for free. Take my words and run with it. But at least try to be accurate about depicting my position. Damn. You trying to tell me it's beyond the pale in the city of Boston with a player that played for Brad Stevens in college that clearly wasn't himself for the first half of the season, so much so that he got benched for Marcus Smart. It don't strike you as a tad bit odd that he was in the lineup to begin with? I'm just making that up. See, y'all just full of it. Full of it. Full of it. But it's cool. Mark, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead.
Hey, Stephen A. Mark from Milford, Pennsylvania.
How are you?
Big fan of yours. I go all the way back to your days with Brandon Tierney. I was kind of bummed when you were off the station for a while, but really happy that you're back. Tried calling many times, but I can never get through. Anyway, just wanted to preface, I'm a white guy, and I'm 100% on your side. I think people take what you say the wrong way a lot of times because you're not a white guy, but you're honest, and I like that. You and Colin Cowherd are two of my favorites when it comes to saying things the way that they are. I really enjoy you, Max, and Molly together. The thing that people have such hang-ups about, are racism in politics. And I think that racism is talked too much about. Not the way that you talk about it, because you talk about it in a fair perspective. But so many people, they hear you say something about a white guy or a black guy and like, oh, Stephen A. is racist. Bull crap. You are one of the most honest people on the radio, and I appreciate you. I have to say I am worried for you when you have some of these diatribes, because you are as honest as you are, and people do take things the wrong way. Not everybody's as open-minded as I am and as you are. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out.
Well, I appreciate that, but I gotta say this to you. Some people may be scared for me. I'm not scared for me. I can't be on the air and be dishonest about where I stand and how I feel. I'm open to being corrected because I'm not always right. You take the information and the facts that are presented to you. You state your position. I'm live. You know, my show ain't tape delayed. You know, I don't sit up here and record it, and 2 hours, 4 hours later, it shows up on the air. I'm in the moment. And in the moment, when you ask me a question, I'm going to give you my honest perspective. That's what I do. And I don't worry about people in terms of, oh, my Lord, you know what, just wait in line and wait for me to, you know, to say the wrong thing or whatever. I made some mistakes. I'm not perfect, but I've been doing this. I've been a journalist for 25 years. I've been in this radio and television business for 20 years. Think about the minimal amount of mistakes that I've made over that period of time, considering the fact that I'm on the airwaves 10 live hours a week on television and 10 live hours a week on radio. Think about that.
Let me rephrase who I'm worried about for that. I'm worried about me because, like I said, when you were off the air, I can't remember how long you were off, maybe a year or two.
Yep, it was a year.
And I love listening to you. You, Mike Golick, you know, with Golick and Greeny, and, you know, a couple other guys that I listen to throughout the day. You're one of my all-time favorites, and I was bummed. I was so happy.
Well, I got news for you, my brother. You ain't got to worry about that no more. You ain't got to worry about that no more. In this age, the advent of social media, podcasts, and beyond, oh, no. There's no disappearing anymore, my man. And not only that, I don't mean to brag, but I sincerely hope that ESPN will want me for years to come. But if they don't, I'm confident I'll be somewhere else. I'm going to be me. And I love and I'm proud to be a product of the Walt Disney Network, proud to be associated with ESPN. But you know what? I'm confident and cocky enough to say, you know what? They should be proud to have me. Because, excuse me, I don't rest on my laurels. I work for everything that I've earned. Nothing's been given to me. I put in the time. I put in the effort. I put in the energy. And I'll put my work ethic up against anybody in this industry. And that's no disrespect. I got to run. I appreciate the call. But ain't nobody backing up. That's not what I'm here to do. You know, and a lot of times people will listen to what they peel from it, what they want to peel from it, instead of really taking you at what you say. And that's what I detest about folks in this industry sometimes. Because it's not necessary. Where am I going? You disagree with me, you disagree with me. Just like that a-hole from WEEI that's why I haven't been back on that station. And I have a show on this station and still won't talk because of that one guy. Because you interviewing me about Tom Brady and you don't like what I say, so you want to attack me about Floyd Mayweather. What's that about? Because you disagree with what I say. So now it's personal, like you Tom Brady's brother or something. Taking it all personal, like I'm talking about you. Something going on that you need to tell us about? Take it that personal. But these are the kind of things I don't have time for. You ask me a question, I'm going to give you an answer. And I'm incredibly fair to my contemporaries and colleagues in this business. And unfortunately, I guess because of the position I'm in, people don't feel inclined to do the same. But that's on them. That's on them. More of your calls in a minute to close out the show. You're listening live with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, if you missed any of the show today, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith Podcast, brought to you by Capital One. Capital One is reimagining banking, offering accounts with no fees or minimums that can be opened in 5 minutes. Capital One, hey, what's in your wallet?